Good morning, this is Pastor Rick. I want to welcome you to the Sunday Forum for this Sunday, February the 12th. We're going to talk about our campaign this morning. We're going to talk about Fling Wide the Door. That is the title of our campaign. We're going to have a Q&A Sunday right after the 9 o'clock service, so at 10:15 as always, where you will get to come and ask questions. But of course, some of you are watching this in Wisconsin and Connecticut and in Illinois or wherever you live around the country, and so this will be, in essence, a little introduction to the campaign. Every Sunday, we're going to roll out more information. Just a little bit of information until in March, you're going to receive a perspective with all the details. But the details, well, there's so many details that we want to make sure we're rolling it out slowly, so that everyone can digest the breadth and the depth of where God is leading us here at Emmanuel. Because when we talk about Fling Wide the Door, we're talking about really opening our doors even wider to the communities that we serve. We always talk about Emmanuel as one church, multiple communities. Well, we're trying all sorts of ways to reach out to those communities. As you know, we do traditional liturgies and we do worship services in Spanish. We have drive-in worship outdoors at the park, and we have praise bands and contemporary worship. We're trying to fling wide the doors in multiple ways, and now we're even using technology like filming this Sunday Forum to reach out to our people, because more and more technology is playing a role, as you will see in our campaign. So that is what we mean by fling wide the doors. But also, it means we're going out into the community. We've heard the call to be salt and light. So fling wide the doors is not just us inviting and being hospitable to all our communities here at Emmanuel. It's for us to go out of those wide open doors and serve our communities. That's where we feel our call, and you'll see that here in the campaign. There are all sorts of projects and buildings and initiatives so that we invite in, but also that we go out. So we're going to review some of those projects just in a very initial, quick way this morning, and I've invited Howard Isaacson, the CEO of Emmanuel Academies and Communities, also to give a brief description of those projects. And it's just a way to get the conversation going for Sunday and before you get all the details later on in March and April. So let me start by saying the first project is focused here at Morning Line Drive. It's going to be $7.25 million, and the major piece is a large atrium that will be built to tie all of our facilities together. It's going to allow us to do larger worship services. It's going to allow us to do concerts. It's going to allow us to open our doors to community events as well as to do more education, because right now, well, our media center room is getting too small for the type of projects and programs that we want to conduct. And so, although there'll be many aspects to this commitment, the largest will be indeed this hospitality space right now where we gather outside the church so that we can gather, have events, and we're not affected by the weather. Not just hurricanes, but rain and wind always kind of ruins the fellowship time. This will be exciting and a very visible program. You'll want to pay attention, and if you have any questions, you can write an email to me this week when you hear and see this film, or come again at 10:15 after the worship service to ask me about this commitment to fling wide the doors here at Emmanuel. But let's go to the second project, or the second and third, which are Emmanuel Academies, which is really our seminary here at Emmanuel, and Emmanuel Communities, which is our commitment to developing a community out at the park, of course, led by our pastor, Will. So let me now invite Howard Isaacson to join me so we can talk about those projects right now.
Good morning, Rick. Great to see you, and I'm glad to join you here on the forum.
Howard, as always, great to have you here. You know, we're going to talk about Emmanuel Academies first and then Emmanuel Communities. But you know, I didn't bring my African shirt this morning. That was a mistake because we just got back from Rwanda it was over a 2-week trip there where we got to visit the leaders of the church and our students. We got to actually do some of the exams, first exams. So I just wondered, what are your impressions from that trip?
Well, it is absolutely amazing to witness God's work in Rwanda and how our students, future pastors and current pastors in Rwanda, are benefiting from the education that we're helping to provide as they continue to grow their churches and serve their communities. It was amazing to see. And I look forward to sharing on another forum really some of the specifics of that.
You know, Howard, I've been a professor for many, many years, and often when you give exams, right, the students afterwards are relieved. I mean, they're happy, but they're relieved that they just finished the exam. I think it's fair to say our students in Rwanda were just pumped up. They were excited because now they can see, I think, the fruits of their labors. They can see this dimension of the program, and they were really excited about what they experienced.
Absolutely. Extremely excited between yourself and Reverend Dr. Clay Schmidt, myself, and the academic and ordained leaders of the Lutheran Church in Rwanda. The students really were blessed by the exposure to the wisdom and the knowledge and their opportunity to grow.
So just to summarize, we've been given the responsibility here at Emmanuel through our seminary, Emmanuel Academies. We are training and equipping all the Lutheran pastors in a whole country, a church in a whole country. And it's pretty exciting for all the pastors in the Lutheran Church of Rwanda, a new church that just started after the genocide in 27 years ago. That's our global mission project here at Emmanuel. It's very, very exciting, and that number of students is growing because they're really drawn to the program. How many students do we have in Rwanda right now?
In Rwanda, we've got 18 students, including the bishop of Rwanda, who is earning his Doctor of Ministry.
But we have total over 43 students at Emmanuel Academy, so not just in Rwanda. Tell us about our other students in Latin America and here in the U.S., in particular in Florida.
So wherever we go, the Spirit has led us, and we work very closely with the national bishop to ensure that whatever education we are helping to provide, it is relevant and welcome within the country, and then we adapt as necessary. So in Venezuela, we have been welcomed with open arms by President Gerardo Hans, and we have 3 students currently in Venezuela. We've got 3 students also in El Salvador, where we work closely with Bishop Menardo Gomez and his leadership team. And we also work with the bishop in Guatemala, who is accompanying us as a student as well, earning her Master of Divinity.
So working in Latin America, but also here in the U.S., and particularly the DMIN program is really expanding. We're going to show some of the pictures of our students here. When you see them all together, it's really quite impressive. Howard, can you say a word about our students here in Florida?
Our students here in Florida are the singular most important students that we've got because we are committed to helping to build the Evangelical Lutheran Church here in America with qualified, skilled pastors. And so here in Florida, we've got more than 10 students that we are working with, and we work very closely with our Bishop Suarez, and the entire candidacy committee to ensure that our students are meeting the needs of the Florida Bahamas Synod.
So that's pretty exciting. 10 students here in Florida. We'll want to hear more about them as the campaign unfolds, but especially, of course, the ones right here at Emmanuel. Beatrice, you see every Sunday up front, but we have other students as well here at Emmanuel. Now, our ask is going to be $5 million for this campaign, and that sounds like a lot, but that would be like securing 2 seats at a normal ELCA seminary For that, we can run the whole program with faculty, scholarships, the whole ball of wax. Is that right?
That is correct. And the expectation is part of those funds will help to ensure our sustainability and even growth over the coming 5 years. Keep in mind, over the last 5 years, we grew from 0 students to more than 43. And we're expecting to kind of sit between 55 and 65 students at maturity. And so we like to have in the bank scholarship dollars for students when we accept them that will see them through to completion. So we can be assured that our students their completion is exclusively up to their academic success, not our ability to fund.
A final word about our seminary here at Emmanuel Academies, because some people say, and I'm sure you'll ask this on Sunday, we have 7 ELCA seminaries. Why do we need to do this work at Emmanuel? And that is because we're reaching students that the seminaries can't or won't reach. So the students who are coming to Emmanuel Academies are just going to be great leaders in the future, but they wouldn't fit into our ELCA seminaries. And I'm in a good position to say that because I was the president of our largest seminary, the ELCA. We did great work at Luther Seminary, but there were certain students we just couldn't reach. And so that's our call, that's our mandate here at Emmanuel Academies. Now, let's move to Emmanuel Communities. And before we get into the campaign and what we'll be asking for, the new projects, I think you're working on the pavilion right now as we speak.
We still are, and it is moving forward. So over the past few weeks, we've had fill delivered to the site. We've had the fill actually formed. We've had conduit laid. We're awaiting county inspection of the work that's already been done. Once the inspection green lights it, we'll actually have cement poured for our foundation. Once that cures, about 2 weeks, we're expecting delivery of the heavy timbers, and that'll actually start the formal raising up of the structure.
We hate to always make projections because we've done that so many times in the past, and things haven't come to fruition. But at Easter, we might be under the pavilion, right? We might be able to worship the resurrected Lord under the pavilion.
It is definitely a reasonable possibility.
There you go. Fully committed. All right, now, new projects. We're going to be asking for $7.5 million. It's one of the largest projects in this campaign, and the bulk of it is going for a new community hall. Now, we say community hall because we want to service the community out there that's growing like crazy out and around Emmanuel Park, but also that's going to serve as our church. Is that right?
That is correct. So we're looking at constructing a community hall that on Sunday morning and whenever worship is held actually converts into a sanctuary. So we are imagining removable walls. We are imagining, of course, technology and sound systems. We're imagining a stage that provides great functionality. Ultimately, it'll hold up to 1,000 seats.
Wow. So it's going to be quite impressive, and I'm sure you'll have questions about that. On Sunday, you can always address those to me, to Pastor Steve, Pastor Will, but also Howard, because he's the one who's really got his fingers on the pulse of all those projects and where they are present. Howard, again, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Rick. Really appreciate it.
So in the campaign, you'll also be hearing about 2 other projects or initiatives, and we're not going to say a whole lot about them here this morning, but you can ask about them on Sunday. And that is, first of all, the general endowment. That will be, our request will be $1.25 million. You know, many of our members like to build the Emmanuel Endowment into their estates, and this builds some real strength for the future as we can use these funds for all sorts of projects as they emerge. Some of them we already possibly know about, but often Who knows what we'll need 10 years from now, 15, 20 years from now, and the endowment builds that missional strength so we can fling wide the door, not just in the coming years, but in the coming years. Also, the Good Samaritan Fund. We lifted this up especially after Hurricane Ian. These are funds that we use locally to help some of our own members who ran into difficulties with the storm, but also some local churches, not ELCA, some ELCA, but others as well, who suffered under that terrible storm. And so the Good Samaritan Fund has been used to make sure that Emmanuel can constantly work immediately in a crisis to serve needs. It doesn't have to pass through the annual budget or go through committee structures. It's a way to respond to immediate needs. Again, very important project, and we're going to hope to raise $250,000 again for the Good Samaritan Fund. All these are exciting projects. We're putting them together. It's a big campaign. It's a big idea to fling wide the door, again, so that we can invite all those in the community to worship and to fellowship and to have all sorts of projects and concerts and educational programs right here at Emmanuel. But also we're flinging wide the door to go out. We are going to be a congregation who's committed to serving the neighbor and serving our community. So I hope that you'll bring your questions to the Q&A here on Sunday, again at 10:15. But also, if you're up north, send me your questions as well. Once again, we'll be rolling out more and more details of this comprehensive campaign as the weeks move on. And I hope that you'll be engaged and pray that the Lord continue to guide and lead us as we try to serve our Lord going into the future. Again, thanks for joining us on the Sunday Forum. Bye-bye now.